final speaker for the afternoon will be Brian Boyne with Minnesota Valley. And he, all I asked was kind of run through, when somebody comes through the door looking to upgrade a system to variable rate, what's the industry lens of that? So that's what I'm going to have Brian come up here and talk about.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Boyne from Minnesota Valley Irrigation in Minnesota. I'm a product specialist there. I've been dealing with variable rate now for the last 6-7 years. Still don't know much about it, but he kind of wanted me to go over what the industry's doing, and I'm going to go over that as well as just the basics and kind of go over what the 3 different types of variable rate we offer, and then what situations those would fall into and what we are seeing in our dealership for what the best fit is for each field or each person out there. So what we have is VRI, it just puts the water where it needs to be. Basically optimizes irrigation. We're trying to do the best job we can out there and not put water where we don't need it, too much, too little. Everybody's got low areas in their field, different elevations, that there's very few fields that are same from one side to the other. So that's where VRI can come in if you have an issue with a field that, you think you could do a lot better in there with your yields. So these are the 3 different types of VRI that we offer. The speed, which she touched on quite a bit, was it's basically just speeding up and slowing down the pivot to put on more or less water in certain areas of the field. It's just pie-shaped areas. And this, if you have egg sets, this is available on your egg sets unit. You can go in there and make these prescriptions up right on your own to do it if you have a field that, say, has a ditch through it, or, part of it you're not actually needing the water. You can go in there and turn it up to 100% through the area, so you're only putting a little bit of water on. So that's something you guys can go in there and completely do on your own right through egg sets. The next one is zone control. This is where you have different zones, and this takes equipment on the pivot. We'll go in and we'll install tower boxes, and I'll get to that stuff in a little bit here. I'll show it. And then there's the VRI-IS, which is what we install most now. We've gone to, that system works the best. It's individual sprinkler. Each sprinkler is controlled on its own. You can shut off every single one all by itself. So that's where we've gone with most everything nowadays. It's probably the best bang for your buck out there. So this is just showing field here. You got the ditch through the field. This is something where we could do that, and you can do this on just part of a pivot, the whole pivot, whatever you want to. We can put VRIS on 2 spans of the pivot. If you have a low area in the field, we can put it on just that part, so you can shut off the water in that area. You can also do it. It isn't just for varying the rate on the whole field. There's different uses for it. This one shows a little bit of elevation change, which he showed in a lot of those pictures where you can adjust your water for the elevation. And this is just over the speed control. Like I said, this divides it up every 2 degrees, 180 sections, that you can go in there, change that on your own if you want. Set it up to speed up in areas you don't need it. And like I said, this one, the dealership, I've had people come in and ask about it. They go in and say, hey, this is what you can do. You can do it on your own. It's basically a free deal if you got egg sets already. You go in there and make the adjustments, and then watch it and make sure it's doing what you want. It's just a made up prescription on that. It shows you that each different color is a different rate. So everything's based on your 100% rate, whatever you have that set at. So, or excuse me, your water rate. Sorry. So, in zone control, it's max 5,400 zones. We'll install it. The prescription pulses them on and off. So it is zones. So now you have Skinner valves for each zone. which it'll shut them on and off. The zone can be anywhere from 1 to a dozen, 14 sprinklers. So we'll upload the prescription, turn it on in the panel. When it's running, the application depth is adjusted by the zones in the VRI boxes. So this is a picture of it, how it's set up there. So we have these VRI boxes, different zones, up to 30 zones on them. So you have zone 1 is these 4 sprinklers here, and zone 2 is those 4 sprinklers there. So the pivot knows by what degree it's at, which zone it needs to shut on and off. So this isn't near as precise as the IS, and this is one we've been mainly using, putting partial systems where we got low areas in the field where they want, the cheapest option is shut it off just over a low area. Could be any span of the pivot, put this on there just to shut the water off, to keep the watering, chemigating, fertigating in these low areas. So that's one of the only places we're using this, because if you get on a full system and we're doing this, by the time you get compressors and everything, the IS is about the same price. So it's not really, we found it isn't the best option and cost effective for our customers. This is just a zone prescription out there. This is a full field one, well, except for the first 2 spans, they don't have anything on there. So this is how you would go in there, and it's kind of tedious. You go in there, you got to pick out each little square, put the color you want on there for the application depth. And it gets to be a little tedious making up these maps. So this one is one that out west we have where they're showing they got low areas and they're just varying the rate, shutting it off for the low areas, and then putting, I think it's 50% rate on the outside, and we're 80% rate on the outside, 50%. So they're not shutting them off completely. They're just taking them down from what the full rate is. So, and out there we ran into, here's another one that's showing shut off and then 50% rates around it. But out there we ran into, they have a lot of desert, a lot of sandy soil out there. They have a lot of areas, low areas that developed over there. You get the hard pan below it, and it just builds up water through there. They created swamps in the fields, where there never was one. And by putting variable rate out there on this and not watering those areas, it started to dry up. They eventually, the one field, they had so much low area, they ended up bringing back almost 40 acres that they started being able to farm out there on the one field just because they weren't watering it. Then eventually they ended up going to like a 10 or 20% rate on it. So they're able to water at a lower rate and not have the water build up so they can actually farm these areas. Individual sprinkler. So now the whole field is divided up into 10th degrees. So you can turn them on and off every 10th degree. So it's a customized prescription, changes the rate, turns them off every sprinkler by itself. So this is just explaining of how it goes. It's a web-based software, so it's a Valley 365 software. You come in, you look at this setup, you purchase it. We'll set up the field for you. We go in, take the sprinkler chart, put it all in there, gets all the lines for this prescription on it, has every sprinkler drawn out on there. We'll get that all set up for you. So all you need to do is the prescription, and then you set it up with your agronomist, whoever yourself is making the prescription. We can show you how to do it, how to get that in there. Upload shape files into there to use. You pick what rates you want in these areas. Pushes it right through your ag sense unit to the panel, uploads it, and starts running. So it's a pretty slick deal. They actually have it down pretty good now. There's a couple bugs in it, but we're able to work around them, and it seems like it's doing a pretty good job with the ones we have out there. So this on the system of the IS. This is what you would see on there. It's a gray is the controller for it, and then the brass valve. It's an electric solenoid that turns that valve on and off. So these are connected all the way through the system. It used to be from the panel to the end gun. Now that's changed. They now have different box on there. And I'll come to that and how it is set up and controlled here. There's just a close-up of the valve, where you have a wire going from the inner valve to the outer valve, and then the solenoid just hooks right into the bottom of the controller. Bunch of them, you can do them up on top too. Bunch of them up on top. So this is the main components of the IS. So you'll get an IS in the panel. You'll have an OPMC5, that little dealie there. And that's kind of your brains of the operation that runs the whole thing. Tells it, holds the prescription, everything. And then out in the system, you'll have this Encompass board, which VRI pass-through box, they call it, and this actually controls your valves. So the board tells it what valves need to be on and off. This controls them. Your valves actually tie in right here, inner and outer. So this is out on the system, and it talks down your pink wire in the system if it's a valley. It'll just send a signal down one of your wires on the system. So you would have in the panel of OPMC5, then out at your first or second tower, you'd have this other compass box that your valves would tie through, and then it talks back and forth and it tells you, well, we need valve 4 shut off here, valve 8 shut off here, and that's basically the gist of what it does. It can do it wherever it is in the field, and it does a pretty good job at it. And also on the system, it depends on how many sprinklers you have on the system, big area. You'll also possibly have a power supply box to power up these valves. These valves are 12-volt valves. You have a 22 or 26 volt power supply that'll power them up. So, but that'll only go so far down the system. Like a power supply box partway through 480 to 24 volt transformer, and then it'll repower the valves up as it goes down the system. So those are the components that would be involved in the system. You have a couple 3-tower boxes on there, the valves hooked together, and then the OPMC5 in the panel is about what it's all consists of. These are the IS. This is one of the IS prescriptions. All 3 of them, you can see the difference in between the 3 prescriptions that are out there. Bottom one's an IS where you can do the shape files. This is one we had up by Park Rapids. This one the shape files were loaded. They got the different percentages for all the areas in there. Another one, this is one that's just, the only thing you're doing is shutting it off of the low areas. And each of those pink lines is a sprinkler on there. You can see where your sprinkler chart goes from double spacing to single spacing on there. So each of those pink lines is actually a sprinkler on the system. So that one, yeah, they're just shutting off over low areas. And this one is one we can do now too. We've gone into that with these corner machines. We've got Encompass corners now. It's basically the VRI-IS on the corner that does the sequencing. It's all electronic sequencing off of that Encompass board. It's doing a lot better job on putting water application down under the corners compared to the old, angle sequencing and stuff like that. We've seen a lot of good results from that. Where this one, it's VRI and part of the system. And then we're also VRI in the corner in a big swamp up there on the top. This is all a big swamp, and the corner's tucked in all the way along there. Then it comes out, and there's a little slough there and one here that's actually shutting off everything in those sloughs between the corner and the system. So, as far as if you're coming into us and you're looking at this, we'll, you got a system you're looking at, you come in, you give us what field it is, we'll look at it. We'll have to see, elevation changes, soil changes, what your issue is, if you have low areas, whatever you want to do on this, and then kind of decide what system we want and what would work best on there. And, as far as these go, if you're getting into the IS system, a full system, one is going to need a VFD on the pump. We have to have a VFD, because if we're dropping gallonages on a lot of these, we're going to overpressure if we have a regular pump on there. So that's one thing. And then, the other things that are might be an issue with this. If you have the sprinklers on the system that are old, 10, 15, 20-year-old sprinkler package, we might have to upgrade the sprinkler package, and then panel type. If it's a Valley, if it's a Valley VRI that you can use in a VRIS, you're probably gonna have to upgrade to an Icon panel, and have the 8 cents prescription as part of it, just to upload it. Because the prescriptions are done through 365 and then uploaded through the 8 cents to the panel. So, and you can make different prescriptions like you want. You can have 3, 4, 5 different prescriptions loaded up in there. You can just swap between the ones if you want. There's a lot of people doing them. If they have a regular prescription, and if they're going to fertigate on there, they say, well, I don't want it. It's going to put too much on if I'm variable rating in that area, so they'll just shut it off and they'll run nitrogen through there and put that down without the VRI, just so that they get an even coverage on it. So it's not putting too much down. So, and they also do offer offer variable rate chemication pumps that can do the variable rate as you're chemicating also. So there's a lot to it. You know, it can be simple, like the speed. If you want to do a speed and go ahead and do it, that's a real simple way to get VRI in some areas of your field. But then, you know, like get into the IS, it can be pretty complicated with all the different things you got to change. You know, there's make sure that everything is up to date. You have the right equipment out there. But yeah, that's what we see. We just got in, you know, the last couple more years, we've done a lot more of the actual variable rating. Or a few of you guys have got these systems and dealing with agronomists and making different prescriptions for the fields to actually variable rate them. Most of the stuff we've done is just shutting off over low areas, or partial percentages around low areas to get in there, so we don't have a lot of data of our own on how much this can save you. And I've heard anywhere from 10 to 15% in watering costs. But like I said, we haven't had that many out there that much going full time to say, hey, yeah, we've seen this. But so yeah, but it does. We've seen some good results with out west, but they're not putting water down after a few years. Maybe we can gain some ground back just to see these fields all over that have been irrigated for many years, and a lot of that just developed low areas where the water sits, and some of that could possibly go away if you're not throwing water out there all the time. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I have. I'm sure I went way quicker than I should have, but if anybody has any questions. Well, thank you.
Thank you.